Last year, back when 2019 was considered to be a bad year, oh how naive we all were, I went ahead and purchased F1 2019 and dove back into the world of Formula 1. The only F1 game that I had ever played up to that point was F1 2001, so it could be argued that F1 2019 was my first true initiation into the sport. Well, I sunk a lot of time into F1 2019 and was soon a fan of the sport itself. Gaining knowledge about how the sport worked, finding out my favorite driver and track, knowing different terminology in the sport, and more. I even got around to finally watching both series of Formula 1 Drive to Survive on Netflix, which expanded my knowledge about the different drivers, teams, rivalries, and knowing all of that from having watched the documentary has given me so much more context that has enhanced my F1 experience. Along with all of this that happened thanks to the extremely positive experience I had with F1 2019, shortly after the game launched, I went ahead and got F1 2020. Normally, I refrain from buying yearly sports titles, as the majority of them tend to be the exact same game with a roster update and one, maybe two new things added if the player base gets lucky, or literally just a mobile game put on console, depending on who the publisher is. It was due to these reasons that I was a little hesitant with F1 2020. Despite the amazing experience I had with F1 2019, I refrained from pre-ordering and waited until the reviews came out. When I saw that both players and critics alike were praising the game, that's when I felt safe and bought the game. So, after sinking a considerable amount of time into this game as well, what do I think about it? F1 2020 is another diamond in the rough for the sports genre, as this video game is made with care and love from Codemasters. I could easily tell that this wasn't just a copy-paste game with a roster update, as there is a plentiful amount in the game. Everything from F1 2020's newest and best mode yet, to the addition of time trials in the F2 season, to how the cars feel, to how this title welcomes both newcomers and the sim racing community as did F1 2019, and more all come together to provide a complete package that F1 fans such as myself will keep coming back to. So, let's go ahead and start with F1 2020's newest mode, which ended up being my personal favorite mode out of them all, the My Team mode. F1 2019's biggest feature was being able to create your own driver and join one of Formula 1's 10 already existing teams, racing under contracts with various teams until you reached the goal of racing for one of the top teams to get a good shot at obtaining podiums and championships. While that mode is included in F1 2020, that's not the primary mode of the game. In F1 2020, the primary mode is the My Team mode. In this mode, you are not only the driver, but also the owner of a brand new Formula 1 team, making you the 11th team on the grid and expanding the amount of cars on the track from 20 to 22. In this mode, you not just race for a team, but you also have total control over it. This harkens back to the days of games like NASCAR Thunder 2004, once more, a rag to riches mode where you start at the bottom and work your way up to the top. If you can't tell, I absolutely adored NASCAR Thunder 2004 when I was a kid, and please remaster it, please, I beg of you, remaster NASCAR Thunder 2004, please. Here, your team is brand new and must start basically from scratch. You pick and choose the team colors, logos, and name. Your R&D tree has nothing researched yet, your different departments have no perks or benefits to them, resource points are hard to come by at the very beginning, you have to manage your money well to be able to afford things such as renewing your teammates' contract or having enough to hire a new one. You have to manage different sponsorships and achieve their goals they ask of you to obtain the highest payout. You have to declare a rival that you have a fair shot at beating so you can get your reputation level up. You have to plan for different events for the days leading up to the next race. I'm talking you are in absolute control of the team. What you say goes. When you dive into this mode, I would recommend starting off with kicking the AI difficulty up towards hard or expert, as that will give you a true experience of being a new driver and team in F1. When a new team arrives in F1, there is no chance that they would be immediately rivaling teams like Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull. I would argue that you would be doing the game mode a disservice if you started it on an easier difficulty, as it would rob the experience of starting out from the bottom and clawing your way up to the top. For instance, in my very first race in my team mode, I placed P2. Well shoot, that sounds like setting the difficulty too low, doesn't it? It does, except I had the difficulty set to hard, and through utilizing things such as DRS, maximizing overtake opportunities, and executing a well-planned pit strategy, crossing across that finish line in second place was such an amazing feeling. If I crossed the finish line in second or first place with the difficulty set to easy or medium, it wouldn't have been as impactful. Here though, given the circumstances, it is amazing that I placed P2. Of course, as with any Formula 1 season, there are going to be some good and bad races, and there are going to be tracks that will absolutely destroy you in the first, maybe even second season. However, the inevitable payoff from all of the research, tactics, overtakes, pit strategies, and more will make those initial struggles all the more worth it by the end. My team mode is by far F1 2020's biggest achievement, allowing players to have total control over their Formula 1 team and be the ones to call all of the big shots. This makes career mode, in comparison, pretty barren. You join one of F1's 10 teams, and then you have fairly limited say in what goes on here. You dictate how resource points are spent and what happens with your personal finances, but since you're not the owner of the team in this mode, the amount of control you have is very limited in comparison. My team mode does such a good job and one-ups career mode so much that we have less incentive to play the career mode. I'm not saying the career mode is bad or that it should have been removed entirely. Quite the opposite, actually. I'm glad they kept career mode in. It's just compared to my team mode, there's less to do and less to keep you engaged. So what about the actual gameplay itself? F1 2020 succeeds with flying colors in this mode, as the racing itself feels great. The controls are responsive, the AI from what I've played and seen is fairly balanced, the racing line is still a very helpful tool for newcomers, and you can change the gameplay options to your liking depending if you prefer a casual or simulation style of play. And I must pause for just a second and praise Codemasters for changing how the manual deployment of ERS is. Anyone who has played F1 2019 and decided to control the ERS manually will know just how much of a pain it was to micromanage that through every turn. Here, in F1 2020, it's literally just a single button press to kick the ERS into high gear to assist with overtaking. So thank you, Codemasters, for making that change. Thank you. So what else in F1 2020 has improved? One thing that I have seen some improvement on is the interviews. There are a few more introductions to the interview sessions whenever you enter one, and the questions have been expanded upon slightly. For instance, rather than declaring a rival from a screen, you now declare your rivals during an interview, and questions asked about what happened on the track tends to be more accurate this time around, though there will be the occasional question that treats a simple bump into another car or wall as a full-blown crash, or misremember what happened out there entirely. So the interview system isn't perfect, but I would say that it is better than how it was in F1 2019. Outside of the core game modes, what else is there? As stated earlier, there are modes such as time trials, championship mode, and a Grand Prix mode, which is basically this game's version of single race or multiple races if you choose to add more than one track to the list. Each of them are self-explanatory and play quite well, having no major flaws or anything game-breaking with those modes. There's one more thing that's gameplay related that I need to cover in this video, and when it first showed up on my screen when I played for the first time, I do have to admit, it did cause me a pretty big level of concern. The Podium Pass. F1 2020 is following the trend of the pass system. Similar to things like the Battle Passes in Modern Warfare 2019 and the Season Pass in For Honor, F1 2020's Podium Pass offers a set of tiers that players can progress their way through, unlocking different vinyls, designs, emotes, etc. It has both the regular collection of items as well as premium items if you choose to use the in-game currency. When I first saw this, I felt my heart skip a beat, and not in the good way, and I was given a great deal of concern. However, the Podium Pass system is not intrusive at all. If anything, the amount of XP you get for completing events, specifically races that last longer, are quite generous. I was able to consistently rank up in the Podium Pass every 2 races on average. And there are also challenges that you can do to give yourself XP boosts divided up into daily, career, weekly event, and multiplayer challenges. There are also VIP exclusive challenges if you choose to pay up some money to gain access to those. The content that you earn in this Podium Pass is pretty cool, and everything is purely cosmetic. No ultra tier F1 cars, no parts, nothing. Codemasters, please do not make this video age terribly due to that line. Please do not make that age terribly. I have faith in you all. Please. There's also a regular store that you can purchase different items from, though calling it a store is a bit generous since there's only 4 daily items coupled with 1 weekly item up for sale at any given moment. Overall, I'm quite surprised at how laid back the Podium Pass is. I'm so used to these pass systems either having stat-changing gear or taking ages to grind through that having a pass system that is cosmetic only and gives you XP to rank it up at a generous pace was shocking. That says something about the state of video games that we as players can be surprised at a game for how consumer-friendly it is. Wow. That is... wow. As for the other aspects of F1 2020, primarily the visuals and audio, they're all really good, for the most part. The cars and environments are all nicely detailed when the texture finally pops in. And for some reason, during my playtime, whenever the safety car was deployed, the frame rate for the game would absolutely tank. I'm not sure if it's a problem with my console, as this was recorded on a regular Xbox One, so I don't know if it's down to the console or if that was just the game. Other than the occasional texture pop-in and frame rate issue, the graphics are all great to look at. From the car, to the cockpit, to the environment surrounding the track, and more. Audio is also good for this game too. From the crowd cheering, to the sound of an F1 car being pushed to its limits, the music, and plenty more. F1 2020 is another diamond in the rough for the sports genre. Whereas most sports games are copy-paste games with roster updates and 1 or 2 small additions added, or literally mobile games put on consoles depending on the publisher you're talking about, F1 2020 comes in with an insane amount of depth and playability to it while also making sure to retain the amazing feeling of driving around in one of these unique machines specifically made for racing. And with that being said, that will do it for this video. What do you think of F1 2020? Do you like it? Think it's okay? Do you dislike it? Flat out hate it? Let me know in the comments below. I personally do enjoy this game, and I was definitely surprised. I'm going to reiterate this again. I was definitely surprised at how laid back the Podium Pass was. And that comment about how that says something, that we can be so surprised at how consumer-friendly a video game is, that really goes to show how rough video games have been as of late. At least when it comes to greedy publishers that only are concerned about the bottom line and their stock shares, whatever they're called. I don't know off the top of my head. Shareholders? Pleasing their shareholders. There we go. Good job, B. You did it. Woo. But yeah, yeah. Wow. Anyway, with all that being said, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment, and if you really want to, you can hit that subscribe button and be sure to click that bell icon to receive all notifications for future uploads because YouTube decides to be weird when it comes to letting you know about videos uploaded onto its own platform. And with all that being said, stay safe, stay healthy, and peace out, everyone.